How do you relate the performance of the judiciary?
The performance of the judiciary this year, I think that, yes, without a rigorous scientific survey, I can still unequivocally state that there's been an improvement, all right, improvement in the perception and increase in the confidence in the justice system. No doubt, because right from the beginning of the year, the rumors about removal of the Chief Justice, which eventually culminated into an actual case where the Chief Justice was being held to account. So that brought a new sense of energy, a new sense of impetus, a new sense of direction to the judiciary, because even before the case could be completed, what became very clear to citizens and lawyers alike is that, now the law can bite anybody, including the Chief Justice. And that was a huge statement. It didn't matter too much about the merits of the case, but that was really good because it told us that nobody is above the law. So, I mean, never mind about the issues some people raise with the actual case, etc. But I'm talking about the signaling effect, right? The optics. The optics were great because it now sent a message to all of us that we all live under the law. There is no case of somebody is above the law, because, you know, before that, a lot of citizens had a lot of cynicism that, oh, you know, the powerful people in society cannot be touched. The powerful in society cannot be touched. The powerful in society cannot be touched. But once the Chief Justice petition came out, and then there were issues, etc., it sent that great signal. So the whole year is seeing an upsurge in confidence, and eventually with the removal, which was right in law. And so that's where I would disagree with Professor Bafo. Earlier on, yesterday on Ghana Tonight on TV3, Professor Bafo said, once we've not questioned the travel records of the Speaker of Parliament, we've not questioned the travel records of President Mahama, or a president. He didn't say President Mahama, but a president. That means we shouldn't question the travel records of ex-Chief Justice Tokono. You know that, with due respect, we all know how Professor Bafo, we all love him, he does well in these matters, but on this occasion, I have to respectfully disagree with him, because then the logic of his argument is that if a thief is caught, because we all know how politicians have looted us and they continue to loot us, then the logic is that when somebody is caught stealing a bunch of plantain or banana, we shouldn't deal with it because we've not been able to deal with our politicians, whom we all know generally over the years, they've looted and looted us dry, right? We can't do that. In Chi, they say, Kronfor and then action. Yes, even though in this case, it's not pure technical stealing, but, you know, I'm doing effective communication, meaning wrongdoing. Yeah. So the wrongdoer is the one who has been caught. So if there are a million other wrongdoers and their case have not been brought forward, they are not the ones who deal with. We will deal with the one that has been brought. And let me tell you, David, did I get the name right?
Yes. The name again? Yes. It's David.
David. Yeah. So David, look, let's not joke with this matter. The case that resulted in the removal of Justice Tokono, all the issues are very serious matters. Look, you see, we talk about protecting the public purse, and the judiciary must lead the charges. A Chief Justice cannot take our money and buy tickets for the husband, another time take our money and buy tickets for the daughter, which is not sanctioned by law. The simple argument is this. Go to Article 71, the conditions of service. You know, we have the Green Street report, the Rama Ade report, the Buando report. That's where you look at. David, that's a simple thing. Go and open those reports and look whether the conditions of service of a Chief Justice includes traveling with daughter, traveling with husband. It's simple. It's a constitutional matter. So anytime I hear people just look at the quantum, 100,000 is nothing. In all, I think when you put it together, by some accounts, it's about 360 something thousand. That's a lot of money. Do you know how many people, look, even teachers, you will find a teacher teaching the classroom over 20 years and the whole year doesn't end up to 150,000 a year. David, let's repeat this thing. When you put together the money that was misused in the Tokonu case, the last time I was on another platform, when it was put together, it was upwards of 360,000. And I'm making the point that there are millions of teachers who have taught in the classroom over 20 years. Okay, so somebody who has been teaching as a teacher over 20 years. And the whole year, when you put that person's salary together, it's not up to 150. I have increased it. The last time a teacher gave me this argument, the teacher was talking about 100,000 Ghana. Somebody who has been working year 1, year 2, year 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, up to 20. And today, the whole year does not end up to 150,000. And the Chief Justice takes that money, blows on daughter, blows on husband, and then somebody tells me that, because we've not questioned Speaker of Parliament's travels, we've not questioned President's travel, we shouldn't start. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with the very first step. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with the very first step. And in any event, I can readily recall that when Speaker Alban Gbadin was giving, the MPP administration a lot of headache, they came and exposed his travel records to Dubai. He showed his family members, etc. And he received a lot of chastisements and opprobrium. Yes, that was a form of accountability.
Right.
But let's say that at that time, nobody presented a petition for removal of Speaker. But I still remember it. The Speaker was embarrassed. He showed huge medical bills, etc. So it's not correct that nobody has ever questioned a Speaker of Parliament's travels, a President's travels, etc. And even in any event, assuming it's never been done, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the very first step. And it's never been our law that we shouldn't prosecute or hold people accountable because other people have taken millions of dollars, hundreds. Yes, and we know. Look at how Akufo-Addo spent our money, traveling in the air, bathing in the skies, etc. We complained and complained.
Right.
Now we didn't have enough numbers to remove. Yes, David. Okay, yeah.
I'll come back to you.
Yes, I also support that in the new constitution, there should be amendments in such a manner that the judiciary will be more independent. Yes, we've complained and complained about it, that Article 144 must be restructured. And so if you look at the HKC Prempe report, it's made some attempts, but it's not far-reaching enough. So, generally the committee report, I'm seeing other things in the HKC Prempe report that are not far-reaching enough. So when we open the debate fully, we'll see how we can contribute more to make the report better. Because we cannot just take the recommendations like that. So I even will pray the president to hold his horses and allow more time for debates so that the president will be able to get more recommendations from the public, okay, so that the report will be better. Because look, apart from the judiciary, the way he seeks to restructure are not being independent enough. That's to say specifically the Judicial Council is not as independent in his proposals as we wish. You'll find issues of like anti-corruption, Article 286 of the Constitution. Look, the single most important amendment that we want to Article 286 is that when a public officer presents his assets, he declares his assets and is given to the Auditor General or a new institution for that purpose, there should be publication. In the Rawlings regime, there were publication of assets. If you go to Assembly Press, that's next to Accra Poly, that's now Accra Tinka University, you can buy the asset declarations of ex-President Rawlings, his ministers, PV Obe, all those people. What happened? Did armed robbers go to rob them like parliamentarians were saying in the 90s when we wanted to change the law? So, but this new proposal that HKC Prempe is brought, his committee is brought, he's not be able to put this simple matter that there should be publication. Meanwhile, when you check the 5th IMF review, the one that was published earlier this month, December 2025, The IMF was very unhappy about the removal of that clause from the bill. You know, there's a bill that we are seeking to pass, a new asset declaration law, that's code of conduct for public officers, etc. And this current administration, they removed the provision that says that when a public officer declares his asset, it must be published. So the IMF rightly took on the JM administration that this is not on.
Right.
Then the JM administration answered that they will let H. Kwesi Prempeh deal with it in the report. Now, H. Kwesi Prempeh's report is in, and they've swerved the same question.
Right.
They swerved it. No, when I saw that part, I was like, no, this H. Kwesi Prempeh report is not right.
Right.
We have to tear it apart and reconstruct it. If not, we cannot vote on this matter. It has too many controversies. That one, there's no question about it. Let's be clear. When we say politicization, unless maybe I've not understood it, my understanding is that politics in the way the judges are selected, etc. Oh, that one, we can't run away from it. To be a Supreme Court judge, look, the president must like you. That's so far. I'm not saying that's the law, but that's the trend. The president and big people in the party must like you. It's lobbying. Look, David, there are over 7,000 lawyers, and I presume to go to the Supreme Court, you need to be at least 15 years as a lawyer. Even without checking scientifically, I can vouch that there are more than 2,000 lawyers who are at least 15 years at the bar. There will be more than 2,000 lawyers, right? Out of the lot, right? Now, even if assuming that number is not 2,000, even if it's 1,000, the point I'm making is that to become a Supreme Court judge is intense lobbying. It's not too much about you are intelligent, etc. Because everybody, once you've qualified as a lawyer, generally, of course, there are exceptions. It means you are good enough. You pass the exams, and it's one exam you write. So you see the judges, they are lawyers first and foremost. But once you come out of law school, you decide if you want to be a judge or you want to practice as a lawyer. So if you want to be a lawyer, then you stay in private practice or you go into corporate, work for a company. If you want to be a judge, you apply and go. Yeah, there are some times that you cannot apply immediately after school. That's if you want to be a magistrate. There were times that you had to work as a lawyer for 3 years. But sometimes when they have a shortage, they remove that requirement. And so even if you qualify as a lawyer today, the next day you can apply and become a judge. Then that's district judge. Then after 5 years, if you do well, you can be promoted to circuit court. Then 10 years, if you do well, you get to high court, etc. Right. So the point I'm making is that, but to get to the Supreme Court, they are not more than sometimes 19. During Akufo-Addo's regime, at a point, I think they were about 19, etc. But that number is so small that it's not exams. It is whom you know. And so party politics comes in there. They will check to be sure that the way you reason, etc., aligns with their party ideology, so that they know that if a case concerning the government comes, your ideology, your way of your philosophy aligns with them. So you hear center left, center right. Center left is the NDC, CPP, that's the socialist background. Then center right, that's the MPP, the capitalist background, okay? Now, so they would want to check your track record. That's the one we openly say this judge is NDC, this one is MPP. Yes, that's effective communication. But as a lawyer, I can't say it that way. I have to say your reasoning. It's your reasoning they look at and then they pick and choose. So yes, it's the party in government that chooses. And they won't choose people who usually reason far from them. No. So as for politicization, it's always been there. It didn't start today. The only thing is that we usually ask the judges to be impartial. But as for the appointment process, it's all politics. Nobody can run away from it. It's all politics. But we ask that they be impartial. The fact that President Mahama appoints Chief Justice Bafuboni doesn't mean that every case that comes and concerns the government, even if government doesn't have a good case, they should rule for government. Yes, that's the one that we fight. But as for the appointment process, it's politics.
Yeah, but if the appointment process is political, the danger also here is that, look, when this particular person, so to speak, is put into position, he might be influenced by the actors that put him in office. And that is what a lot of Ghanaians talk about these days. Yes, the process can be political, but the danger of, it extending to decisions maybe at the apex court or within the judiciary structure itself is a danger.
Excellent. Yes, David, you are right. And I like the way increasingly Ghanaians are getting engaged and complaining. So you see that there's an attempt in the HPC Prempe report to try to make the judiciary more independent. So you see that the complaints are receiving attention. That's one reason allowed President Mahama for that. Yes, he did well. He knows that the heartbeat is the constitution. So you see that as soon as he took office, he quickly got the committee to get together to start working, because we've all seen that the constitution is retarding our progress. It gives the president too much powers. So the president is basically a king, etc. So let's continue talking. Let's continue talking. A few years ago, you wouldn't have had me talking openly about the judiciary like this, because you'd be scared that maybe you lose your cases in court, etc. But later we saw that no, the judges themselves like the change. You think, look, David, you go to school as a lawyer, qualify, you have an independent mind. Do you know how it debases you if a politician who doesn't, I'm not talking about any particular politician, but generally, a politician who hasn't read like you, because he helped in appointing you, he comes to your house in the night to come and tell you that, this case here, Chaleko, let it pass here, let it do. You know how belittling it is? So with time, we found that the judiciary themselves are not happy about the political interference, etc. Exactly. So then we too as lawyers could speak openly. So the fear vanished, because the judge who has read, okay, yes, suddenly has to turn the law, massage it a bit, because a politician who hasn't read 1/10 of what the judge has read is the one holding power and calling the shots, etc. So now it's a free-for-all debate, so that we'll get the judiciary as independent as possible, because the current constitution is retarding progress. It doesn't make the judiciary independent. The system we operate now, I like to call it buy one, get one free. That's, you become president, okay, you campaign for president, so you buy that one. Then you get the judiciary free, because that one, the constitution allows the president to appoint senior judges left, right, center, and controls them, right? So you are right. Citizens have complained, and we've all come to accept that we must make the judiciary independent. And so that's what HPC Prempe has started, but it's not quite finished. And like we said, let's debate the report more and more, so that we'll bring more feedback to make the proposal stronger. Then we can do the referendum and the other things, amendments in parliament, to get the constitution better for our development. We've improved because, you see, we are looking at a case where the election 2012 petition, we spent about 9 months to adjudicate. But in the election 2020 petition, we spent, 43 days or so, even though the law said 41 or 42. So just 1 or 2 days beyond what the new law had stipulated. So you see that the judiciary has improved in terms of helping to manage electoral disputes. And the judiciary too has been very clear that the EC is independent. So the judiciary doesn't lightly overturn EC's decisions. No, when you read the Abu Ramadan cases, Abu Ramadan, there are 1, 2, 3, etc. Right? You see that the Supreme Court has jealously guarded the independence of the EC. The Supreme Court doesn't take this delight in just overturning EC's decisions left, right, and center. No, the ones that are discretionary, the Supreme Court looks at it. If there is no wild abuse of the discretion, the Supreme Court doesn't touch. Now, high courts, etc., they only begin to touch when there is a big abuse of the law. So if you come to Pandai like this, I know the Pandai constituency matter, the judgment has raised a lot of eyebrows, etc. But that is why there is an appeal process. You see, so largely, you would not say that the courts have interfered too much in the affairs of the EC. No, they have not. In actual fact, rather, there were times that we felt that the court overprotected the EC. Yes, at times that citizens were upset that the courts were overprotecting the EC. You remember election 2020, NDC wanted the EC chair Jim Mensah to enter the box and testify, give an account, not just NDC, governance experts, etc. Felt that Jim Mensah should take the stand. I know there was a Supreme Court ruling that said no, NDC had not brought enough evidence to ask Jim Mensah to respond. So that was a technical rule. Yes, so in law you can justify that. But I'm talking about, you see, there's the technical law, then there's also public perception, and citizens are also part of the justice system. So when there is a law that doesn't sit well with the citizens, then usually you have to begin to look at it again. Because Article 125 of the Constitution says justice emanates from what? The people. Yes, Article 125 of the Constitution is clear that justice emanates from the people. So when you have certain rules that citizens don't understand, then you have to try as much as possible to explain, to carry them along. If not, citizens will say this is not justice, this is not justice, and then you have problems, you see. So I remember that key seminal moment in our national life where citizens were upset that the Supreme Court didn't allow Jim Mensah to testify. So on the whole, you would not say that the Supreme Court has been interfering in the affairs of the EC willy-nilly. No, they've used the rules, and overall, rather, citizens have felt that the Supreme Court overprotected. That's their feeling. I'm talking about sentiment, not law. I've told you that, yes, the Supreme Court decision that Jim Mensah should not testify, yes, in law you can justify, but when citizens don't accept, it's another argument. So let me end this way. You see Article 125, it says, justice emanates from the people and shall be administered in the name of the Republic by the Judiciary, blah, blah, which shall be independent, etc. You see, so I'm putting that element that so we have rules that don't sit well with the citizens. You have to do something about it. Thank you.
Right, let me ask this. For the ordinary man watching us, how should he take this case that the Supreme Court, so to speak, came in to suspend the plans of the Electoral Commission? I'm referring to the Pandai by-election. Had stopped the process, had stopped the EC from further, going ahead to conduct that rerun. How should the ordinary person sitting watching us at home take this incident, the Supreme Court's decision to stop the the Electoral Commission from performing what its mandate says to be?
Yes, so they should take it that yes, the Supreme Court is saying that we should wait. It's the Supreme Court that has a final arbiter. They should be a bit patient, okay? They should be a bit patient, and in any event, at least we know that in the interim, the people of Pandai are being represented by Martin Nyendam, the current MP. That's the MPP candidate. So we are not losing too much in terms of representation. Even though in terms of justice, we must quickly get to the bottom of the matter so that the right person should be the one to lead. So I beg citizens that they should take it, like we say in Ghanaian English, take it like that. But it's not going to stretch forever because citizens have made clear to the Supreme Court that they should hurry up. So I think they are going back January, is it 13th or so? Yes. So
Counsel, in this case, I'm referring to the perception that there's an interference, from the judiciary. In this case, the Supreme Court.
Yes, so I'll repeat. I said that we should accept that the Supreme Court is the final arbiter. They must finally say what is the law. And so that is the constitution we've adopted for ourselves, that the Supreme Court is the last person to speak. Like when I say person, official person. The Supreme Court is the last institution to say what the law is. And they are saying, just hold on. 13th January, we will deal with this matter. In any event, Parliament itself was going on recess. So there was not going to be a lot of work in Parliament. I'm not saying that the work of a parliamentarian is always in the chamber. I know constituency work, etc. We know all that. But the Supreme Court has looked at it and says, let's go back to court. I think it's about January 30th. It will come in no time. Then they will deal with this matter as to whether Nyendam should continue to act or he should leave so that the rerun will be done. So we'll beg citizens to cope. Let's cope.
Right. I'll come back for your wrap-up words before you leave us. But